And as a king, he has a kingdom. He has an agenda he wants to advance. It's within the context of his kingdom that he creates entities to advance his agenda. And so when you go to Genesis chapter 1 verse 1, he wanted to advance the frontiers of his kingdom into the visible realm. And so the Bible said, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. So he created a jurisdiction where his agenda can find expression. But for this agenda to find expression, he needed a governor on the face of the earth who will steward this agenda. Now in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2, there was chaos upon the face of the earth, and from study of Bible we realize there was a judgment upon the earth because the first governor rebelled against God. And I don't have time to do the exegesis, but when God recreated the face of the earth in Genesis chapter 1 verse 26, after he had created the earth back, he needed that governor again. And this time around, he didn't decide to use an angel. God went to the council of the Godhead and he said, let us make another creation that will supersede, so pretend, govern the earth realm. And this time around, it wasn't an angel. He said, let us make man, not like an angel. There are many glorious angels in the heavens. Read about the angelic realm, you will marvel. There are angels that the Bible says when they stand on the earth, their head pierces the cloud, their feet cover the water, their feet cover the earth. There are angels called archangels, there are angels called dominions. But God did not bother to create us after their kind. He said, let us make man in our image. Now when he was creating man, if he made us like the world, it would have been glorious. If he made us like the Spirit, it would have been glorious. If he made us like the Father, it would have been glorious. God decided to aggregate the dimension of the Godhead, and he said, let us make man in the image of the Godhead. So when you touch man, there is a dimension that is like the Father, there is a dimension that is like the Spirit, there's a dimension that is like the Word. That's why nothing can kill you, nothing can defeat you. When something wants to break you, you become like the Spirit. The Bible says, as the wind bloweth, he said, thou listest not from whence it cometh or where it goeth. So are they that are born by the Spirit, because we were created to model the totality of divinity. And when God was done creating us, he put us on the earth to govern the earth. And Satan saw it and knew this is danger.